We are back once again with another Johnny Torch live broadcast. Number 82 this week. It's a little bit of a belated episode because I had the PillCon convention to take care of business on Saturday, so the only way to spend your Saturday would have been at the Peabody Institute Library, where you would meet yours truly, as I signed some swag and just had a great time. But we'll talk more about that on the Torch News Roundup. But that's the reason for the slight delay here in getting This Week in Comic Book Television up and at 'em. Now, I have to also say I'm pretty sure that This Week in Comic Book Television is not going to make a repeat appearance next season. I have a funny feeling that with the time it takes me to broadcast these, the time it takes me to get the shows ready, taking notes, copious notes for dozens and dozens of shows, and not getting very many views for the efforts, I'm probably going to rework the situation again. I'd like to try to do something where I can keep tabs with each show, but without doing a week-by-week breakdown, because apparently nobody else is interested in that style. And there are so many shows that it's just become impossible to really, focus attention too much on each episode every week. I used to be able to have the time to watch the episodes multiple times. I used to be able to get some real insight into what they were doing. Now it's basically just watching it while I'm typing on the computer, making my notes, and it's not really the best way to enjoy a series when you have to do that and you can only watch it once and really don't have the time to go back and watch it a second time for a fresher viewing to just see if you caught something you missed before. So I'm kind of announcing the I don't know if I want to say the cancellation of the show, but it's going to come back in a different form next season. I thought this would have been a little bit more of an interesting way to go about it because last season and the season before that, did I do it last season? No, I think last season I started halfway through the season. I instituted This Week in Comic Book Television. But a couple of seasons ago, I used to just do the season encompassing video, which talked about the whole season overall. Chances are I'll probably go back to that format because for 20 minutes, you can just go over the whole season rather than me breaking down every episode 10 minutes at a time every week. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. If you really enjoy the format the way we have it now, let me know in the comments. I don't believe I have the chat room up yet today. Let me take a look. I'll see if I can get the chat room up just in case, just for old time's sake, because as I said, chances are there's going to be some big changes made. As the song says, there'll be some changes made. Okay, so we're starting the show a little early today, considering what we usually do Eastern Standard Time. We usually do the shows around 5, between 5 and 6. Sometimes a late show will be 7. Of course, I pretty much didn't even see much of Raw last week because I was working on my comic, The Adventures of Bullets Bourbon, Private Eye. So I kind of like to do them early so I can get to see a little Raw. I just picked up Black Panther, which just came out on DVD, Blu-ray last week. I got the DVD version because for like an extra $5, I really didn't feel like I needed the behind-the-scenes stuff because I got that stuff with Ragnarok, and I kind of felt like, they used to have really good bonus features back in the day. Like, I remember the original X-Men movie. They had, like, real great, like, blow-by-blow stuff, showing the costume fittings for Ian McKellen. And, I mean, it just felt like you were kind of on set while things were being formulated. But nowadays, it's sort of just, like, highly produced, and you just see you see what they want you to see, basically, I guess would be the simplest way to put it. But anyhow, I digress. We've already spent 5 minutes here on anything but what you came here to listen to. But as I said, I got the chat room up. I stalled long enough to get the chat room up. I would like to see, seeing as how we're doing an early show, maybe I can get the Torch News Roundup up later on today. We've got a lot of news to talk about for the Torch News Roundup. That's always my highlight of the week. That will never go away. But until such time, let us start with This Week in Comic Book Television. Now, this week we saw the fond farewell of a couple of shows that thankfully will return next season. It was touch and go for a while. Arrow had its swan song for the season, which led into a cliffhanger. All the shows pretty much that were finales did dovetail into a cliffhanger. Gotham have already announced that their final season is next season. And Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., supposedly they were going to wrap it up and leave it in case they wanted to come back, which they did get greenlit to come back. But it did feel very much like a cliffhanger there, too, which we'll get into in a little while. Of course, if you don't want to hear any of that and you haven't caught up with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Gotham and Arrow, you might want to skip the second half of this broadcast and come back at a later time. All right, so we'll start off with the shows that did not reach the finale of the season yet. We'll start with Supergirl. And we're still marching towards the ending of this season where Rain has been a very interesting character. This is not exactly what I was expecting this to be this season with Rain, but it has been kind of interesting. I like those kind of dual characters. I like the dual nature characters. That's what I was hoping we would see with Caitlin Snow and Frost, Killer Frost. We'll save that subject for later on, I suppose, but it's a little bit more palatable here. All right, so Rain interrupts Jimmy and Lena. They're having a moment, and Lena douses her with kryptonite. Meanwhile, Jean is still having trouble with his dad's mental loss, his Martian Alzheimer's, which I guess, they're trying to. I think it's most apparent this season that they're trying to make this sort of a soft soap opera this season. This is kind of like going down the path of what I think sort of the feminine soap opera shows are like with I don't watch them, so I don't know, but like Grey's Anatomy and stuff like that. It feels like that this is their answer to that. It's very female-centric storylines where we have, and it was like that a little bit last season, but last season it felt like we were focusing more on the sort of the romance thing. And the romance trope has always been in the superhero genre. So it was like, well, Mon-El and her, the star-crossed lovers, it did feel like they were sort of pandering to that. But it was also a lot of the Alex subplot was really eating up last season. This season, it feels a lot more balanced, but still feels like it has those overtones of trying to just appeal to women viewers. All right, so the Legion are ready to leave. Brainiac 5 gives Winn dirt, which comes back into play later on. Mon-El says that he'll see John in 100 years, which is interesting because I don't remember him ever acting like he remembered seeing him before. I mean, it'd be one thing that he heard of him, but he didn't act like he, remembered anything that Jean would have told him. It's just, I was kind of thrown by that one because, this version of Mon-El didn't come from the past originally. He came from, I guess, the present, then went back to the future, and then came back to the past. So it's interesting to see exactly what he knows about the past or our present. That'll give you a headache. Anyway, Lena tells Alex that she hid Ruby in Lex's mansion. And so Alex goes to find her. Meanwhile, Supergirl and Martian Manhunter go to protect Sam's mom. She doesn't want to leave. She sort of wants to face down Sam, which probably wasn't the smartest thing. I could have told you that in the very beginning because they didn't have the greatest of relationships. Of course, Sam is adopted. And it's, I don't want to say it gives a bad name to adoptions, but it does feel kind of sad that their relationship was so bad that it seems like Sam, as Rain, had no compunction on killing her. I would have hoped there would have been at least a glimmer of hesitation in her eyes. Jean tells Kara about his dad's Alzheimer's. They have a nice moment. Rain shows up in the stepmother's house. A fight ensues. Rain stabs Sam's mom, and they take her back to the DEO, but she still dies. Jimmy wants Lena to tell Kara that she can make kryptonite, but Lena doesn't want to get on Kara's bad side because Kara is completely against the issue. Jean tries to get his dad to help on dealing with Rain by using his psychic powers that are fairly unkempt at this point. Now, at this point, they leave. The Legion of Superheroes leaves, but Saturn Girl tells Mon to return to help Kara. Now, they've made Saturn Girl a paragon of virtue in this show, and I don't remember the character too well. Like I said, I read Legion for a couple of issues back when I was a kid, 10 years old. It was a much different book probably than it's become in the last 20 years or whatever. But so I don't know if she was always this understanding, but she sort of acts like, go and save, go and help Supergirl save the world. And if you don't come back, I'll understand. And if you come back, then I'll respect you, or words to that effect. Show me what woman in the world acts like that. I honestly don't think there's very many, but it is what it is. Okay, so Alina, excuse me, that's quite a different character. I know. I wonder if we could ever have Lana Lang on the show. That would be something interesting. I want to know when we're going to get Superman back on the show. We didn't see him all season, and it's one of those things where you kind of hoped he would be a once a season guest star at least. Lena gives Kara the kryptonite, but as expected, she reacts harshly to Lena. Ruby calls Rain and tries to establish where her mother is because she's hiding out with Alex and doesn't really know any of it. Alex is giving her a snow job, so to speak, and she's not, telling her the truth. And that kind of comes back at the end where she kind of, admits she hasn't been telling her the truth. And, it's one of those things that Alex really isn't wrong for trying to tell Ruby, well, everything's all right, everything's going to be all right and stuff. But, of course, the great, trials of adversity are basically still being hammered out. So Rain shows up. Mon-El returns to help, and Rain goes through the gauntlet, literally the same gauntlet that Lex had in his headquarters in Superman the movie. That was another thing I loved, because that was really great to see that they have such an attention to the Donner films, the love of the Donner films, that they actually recreated that entire set with the guns, with the flamethrowers, with the ice gun or whatever. And basically, they recaptured that whole thing for this scene of Rain trying to get into Luthor's headquarters, his home, his mansion. So they fight, and Supergirl really can't defeat her. Supergirl appeals to Rain's code, quote unquote, so that she can't hurt Ruby, and Mon-El zaps her with the kryptonite. So that's kind of interesting, again, where Rain wants to kill Ruby, I guess, is Sam's only weakness, but at the same time, it feels like there's no hesitation in Rain that she would kill Ruby if she had the opportunity. I don't know. It makes me feel more and more like this is going to be difficult for them to overcome, turning her back into Sam. Of course, the rumors were, of course, that she would be killed off. But I don't know if that's the way you want to end the season after all this investment we've had with Sam. All right, so Kara makes up with Lena. Mon-El wants to stick around and train with Kara, which, like I said, that's not good news. They're really milking this Mon-El thing. I've been saying all along, just go back to your wife. You've got a hot wife. Just be satisfied that you got a hot wife and go back to the future. And of course, they make a play on the joke on Back to the Future, of course. Jean's dad is still not better, unfortunately. I don't know where they're going with the storyline with Jean's dad. I mean, it's like I said, it seems like a soap opera thing where it's just like, a lot of people in the audience are unfortunately going through something like this, probably with a with a parent. But where do you go with it? I mean, you have an alien Martian, getting Alzheimer's. I don't know where you go with that storyline. Is he just going to die at the end of the season? Will he be back next season? And will he recover somewhat? Or is this just going to be another prolonged illness that goes on with him until, such time as they send him off the show? Ruby finds out that Sam is Rain. Yes, we established that with the mask coming off, and she realizes her mother's Rain. Kara runs into Lena. I thought this was I really liked this point where, of course, the glasses are still respected. The glasses are still treated as keeping her secret identity. And Lena just like spills on Supergirl and like dishes on her and, tells Kara that she can't trust Supergirl anymore. And she compares Supergirl to her mom, which was, probably the height of all insults. And she, breaks the confidence that Jimmy didn't explore her Kryptonian vault or her Kryptonite vault or whatever it was, because he told Supergirl, or he told Wynn technically, but he was answering the call that Supergirl made to have him raid Lena's headquarters there, and he didn't. And so now Supergirl knows that. So yeah, the season's winding down. I don't know how many episodes we got left to go. We will chronicle the final of a Supergirl here. And again, it was entertaining. It was a great episode. Considering this season has, not really been that exciting, to be totally honest with you. They've pretty much ramped up the action in the last couple episodes. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I want to see. So yeah, I'll give this one 4.5 stars out of 5. Why not? 4.5 stars out of 5 for Supergirl this week. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how the show is going to end, because I'm really kind of going to be surprised at what they're going to do with Sam at the end of this. All right, now we will bounce over, bouncy, to Legion. Legion, yes, I'm still watching Legion, and this actually was a a very, a step in the right direction, for lack of a better term. It was much better than last week. It was much better than the week before. It's sort of back to stirring the pot, but in the right way. Let's just get right to it. So David calls Farouk out, confronts him over his sister's death at the dinner table. And Farouk is sort of, I don't know, he's playing mind games with him. And so David finally is back with Sid, it seems like. And, we've had like 2 kooky episodes in a row with no real line of continuity. This is the first episode that sort of tries to pick back up the continuity. And actually, no, it's been 3 episodes, right? Because we had the Lenny episode, which really had nothing to do with Sid and David. And I don't know, the show really got sidetracked. And like I said, this was a step in the right direction, trying to get us back on track. Sid asks David to talk to her from the future and find out more. And it seems like Sid's a little jealous, and she's kind of like setting up parameters on how he can act towards her future self. And that was kind of amusing, because it does make you wonder, what kind of person are you going to be in the future? Is it different than you are now? Not really. You might have been through some more stuff, but you're still the same person. So theoretically, David is not cheating on Sid with future Sid, by acting romantic to her, since basically it's the same person, just a different time frame. And an interesting concept, and as the show is, it's kind of a mind-bending thing to try to think about. All right, so finally, as we have this image here, this is when Farouk meets with Sid telepathically in the future. He meets with future Sid. And he says that together they can rule the world and save the world from David, because David apparently is going to be the real danger. And I think it seems like Sid knows this. And she doesn't really, from what I remember, sort of agree with Farouk, or sort of take his offer here to try to be like partners with him in this, but she is the one that has been saying that they have to find Farouk's body and save Farouk to begin with. So hopefully, again, the show is going to stay on target now. Stay on target, and try to get, us back interested in why they need to save Farouk, what they're going to be up against, once they have Farouk's body and stuff. We really is just still kind of spinning our wheels, but again, step in the right direction. Sid confronts Lenny, and Lenny is sort of a pathetic creature, and she kind of doesn't deny that she's probably still somehow in league with Farouk. And Sid, this is the present Sid, of course, talking to Lenny. The basket head guy attacks Paul. I think that's his name, the black guy. And I don't know, the girls with mustaches confront Mickey Meltface. And they eventually get together and talk about what strange dreams they have, what dreams may come. David meets Sid from the future again. She still wants him to help Farouk, even despite what we just saw in the previous scene. They kiss. As I said, I don't think that's anything wrong with that. So Mickey and Paul get with Sid and the female Carrie, and they start taking out those mustached droids. They go after Admiral Fukuhama, and he takes the basket off his head. And I don't know, he looks like a monster or something, but then again, he's really just a guy. They're going to shoot him, but then David shows up and removes the parasites from their head. A creature grows out of Paul, I guess, and they plug him into a tree. I don't know what the heck was going on there. All right, so David tries to talk to the parasite, and he shrinks it down and catches it in a jar before killing it. I thought that was pretty cool. And so it looks like I get a sentence here that's incomplete. I don't know what I was trying to write. He finds himself in a computer. Is that where we left it? I don't remember. Well, what did that refer to? If you know, let me know in the comments below. All right, so it's a step in the right direction. I don't know. I'll give this one 3.5 stars out of 5 because at least it carried my interest somewhat. Although it's still kind of kooky, kind of not really making sense. I don't know, but we'll give this one 3.5 stars out of 5 for Legion this week. And next up, we'll go to the penultimate episode of Krypton, or as the show should have been called, Zod. Zod and Family. That's kind of what this show is. But in defiance of that, here's a picture of Seg and Nissa. All right, so action's really ramping up here, too. This has been a lot of fun, this show. Like I said, the first few episodes, not that great, but from about the third or fourth episode on, really a good show. Nissa tries to find out what's happening and is like sort of interviewing the Sagittarii. Seg and Lyta talk and kiss, and they're still basically an item, I guess, even though, I don't know, it's crazy stuff. Zod wants to get Doomsday, and Lyta follows, and apparently she's on board with this. Meanwhile, Jaina and Seg show up to stop him, but they find that Doomsday has already been missing. And the only way to open up the vault to get Doomsday, by the way, is for the blood of the L family and the Zod family to mix in order to open the door. And General Zod, does this on his own, claims to be Seg's son. He claims that he didn't know this for sure, but he suspected it enough to try this, experiment, and then it worked, and the door opened up. So this is kind of problematic for me. This is kind of where the show loses me. This would suggest now that General Zod, as we've always known him, is the uncle of Kal-El, Superman. And I don't really want there to be a family relationship between them two. It's kind of confusing also to try to figure out how this family tree is going, because apparently he and Lyta are going to have Zod, and which is also confusing because apparently he's not going to be identified as an L, so he's probably going to be married to someone else, and it could be Nyssa, and they could have Jor-El, he and Nyssa. But on the other hand, they already have a test tube baby that is supposedly being created, so to speak. It's very confusing to see what they're trying to do with this here, because now Seg is the father of at least 3, as far as we know, unless, of course, the test tube baby turns out to be Jor-El, which is also very confusing when you think they're only allowed to have test tube babies, but then again, what is to prevent them from having babies a natural way, which is apparently how Zod comes about? It's kind of convoluted. I mean, it's not something we really need to get into, but still, with Seg being the parentage of I don't know how many of these people that are, I don't know. All right, so Doomsday's capsule won't hold him for long. Seg and Nyssa are captured by the Black Zero, and they want to use Doomsday. They got him in the capsule, but he won't be there for long because the system is failing. Meanwhile, Jax tortures Papa Vex, Darren Vex, I think is his name. He steals something from the guard to get away. He got his nose broken like about 3 times in the last 24 hours. But apparently, Jax finds out and tortures him via the implant or whatever he has in him and crashes his plane. He may or may not be dead. It's kind of indeterminate right now. Adam Strange is not anywhere to be found in this episode, which was surprising to me because he seemed like he was with a blonde android chick last episode, and that was, quite curious what was going to happen. But the thing is I hope they don't rush to finish this show because they got 1 episode left and they still got so many hooks dangling in the ocean on which to bite. Jaina won't let Zod leave, and this was interesting. So he challenges her to a duel to the death. So those Zods, they don't mess around. He's going to challenge his grandmama to a duel to the death. And I guess this wouldn't affect his future, so he can do it. I mean, obviously he couldn't duel to the death his mother, otherwise he wouldn't be there. But he duels her. Jaina actually starts winning, but Lyta blasts her before she kills him. Kind of interesting to see what she was going to side with, her supposed son or her mother, but she does side with Zod and leaves her there sort of alone. And some mystery man, which apparently is Jaina's brother, whom she left and abandoned in the snow years and years ago, comes back to save her. You might remember this character was like the hologram, like the 3D hologram image that Jaina was fighting when she was practicing like several episodes ago. And, the brother was, sort of softer than her when they were kids, but when they were like teenagers, he flipped the script and basically turned on her and said that he would kill her to make it painless, and he would take the oxygen mask in that episode. So it was interesting to see how he survived because she not only blasted him, but he didn't have an oxygen mask. I guess he has a false eye too or something, so he's been through some stuff. All right, so anyhow, Seg is back in the fort, and Val tells him that the L stands for hope. And that cape is nearly gone, man. That cape is nearly gone. That's very unsettling. They make peace with Jax, and she opens the clone chamber. Seg rallies the troops against the voice of Raul for a final confrontation. He's still feeding off the Genesis Chamber babies. Maybe that's what's the fate of Seg and Nessa's baby. I don't know. The voice of Raul forces them to shoot each other. He sort of starts a conflict among them. Seg is the only one left, and the voice of Raul is about to hurl him over the edge, but Nyssa saves him by smashing him up. But his body ends up reconstituting finally into Brainiac, which, again, I've been saying all along, I didn't want the voice of Raul to be Brainiac, but apparently he's completely gone now. He's completely dead, and Brainiac is in his place as a robot. So again, a pretty cool episode here. I am going to give this one 4.5 stars out of 5 as well, because this is a real great build up to the final episode, and hopefully the final episode is going to blow us all away. But they've done a pretty good job so far. I thought for sure I was going to lose interest in this halfway through the show. I was going to tune out. I was going to be basically what I'm doing with Legion now, and just being half awake through the show and just only catching a moment here or there. This has actually been pretty compelling. this has been actually pretty compelling and captivating drama. They've, David Goyer, of course, is the one that wrote this, and he's always been a touch and go writer. He can write really great stuff, or he can write, utter trash. He worked on the original Dark Knight trilogy, a lot of great stuff in that. But then again, he also did the Man of Steel films, and Batman v Superman. I think he worked on both of them. No, maybe it was Terrio that worked on Batman v Superman, but on Blade Trinity, he's not really the most reliable writer, but when he strikes something good, he usually can keep that ball moving. He doesn't drop the ball too often if he's in a good project. And so far, this has been a pretty good project. Chem has been sent to Kryptonopolis. I don't think I mentioned that, so he's not in the episode. He probably won't even be in the rest of the show, I bet, because they got so much to do. But yeah, 4.5 stars out of 5 for Krypton, and I am looking forward to the season finale next week. We're going to see how this all wraps up. Will there be a second season? I hope so. Like I said at the very beginning, I don't want them to milk this concept dry. But the good thing is when you have 10 episodes, virtually every episode is important. Virtually every episode carries weight and has meaning. So, all right, let's get to this week's episode of The Flash. And this week promised to be returning to the old school style here of, Team Flash, so to speak. They got Caitlin in sort of I want to say sort of a Captain Coldish kind of outfit. I don't know. I mean, this is supposed to be, I guess, her disguise, so to speak, as a hero. So Diggle guest stars. Of course, it's not really Diggle at first. That's really DeVoe. And David Ramsey does a great job of playing DeVoe. He really felt like he was that character. And DeVoe ends up taking out the entire... What was this place? It wasn't Argus, was it? I don't remember. But anyhow, he conducts a symphony of death. It reminded me a little bit like... it was like a cross between the Nightcrawler scene in X2, one of the great scenes in superhero film, the Nightcrawler White House attack, coupled with, sort of the Daredevil season 1 hallway shot, fight. It was like, really, really cool scene. It was big screen worthy, if you ask me. All right, so we go back and Harry's losing it. And he's getting to the point now where he's just like comedy relief. He's like tripping over chairs and stuff. I don't know if they played it a little too broadly because basically I expected it to be played more for he was frustrated with the fact that he was not able to think clearly. But instead he's sort of becoming sort of like a slightly more intelligent HR, So Barry ends up grabbing Diggle, and he still throws up every time he goes through the speed. They got to keep some Dramamine in his pockets at all times because when Barry decides to do these things. And Barry gets Diggle to investigate what DeVoe stole. DeVoe's plan apparently is to get Fallout Boy to explode. I'm not sure exactly what that was going to cause, but the radiation levels or something would detonate his drones or something. I don't know. Joe is getting ready for Cecile's delivery, and Cecile is taking on different personalities. Now she's taking on the pizza man, I don't know, it feels like they just don't know what to do with Cecile at this point. And to be totally honest, I don't dislike the actress, I don't dislike the character, but it's basically, her character's function is basically just to give Joe a little someone his own age to interact with. Because apart from Cecile, the only one around his age you can interact with is Harry, and Harry's kind of got his own, things going on. He's not, I can't really see Harry and Joe going out, going bowling and having drinks or something. You know what I mean? They're kind of different personality types. So Cecile is useful, but they really don't know what to do with her. So they kind of got this semi-comical storyline going where she keeps switching personalities into whoever's closest to her. She switches into Joe's personality. I don't know. Meanwhile, now Harry tells Iris to get Marlize help, and Iris doesn't want to because, understandably, Marlize is the bad guy, and she stabbed Iris with a sword, so she's not really wanting to hear that. But come on, Iris, don't be a dummy. You know what Harry's saying makes sense, because somehow they know that Marlize has abandoned DeVoe and is striking off on her own. The team wants Barry to bring them into the Flash time, team meaning Caitlin and Cisco, to save DeVoe's hostages, because he's got the bunker there where Fallout Boy is with hostages. He tries training them, but it's not working. They can't focus their powers and focus on movement, because they're moving so fast that they're moving slow, which is kind of an oxymoron. Well, it is. But their feet don't work after a while, and it's looking very bad. Cisco and Barry get into a heated exchange. Barry doesn't want them to come on the mission, but he has no choice, and eventually, you know, gives in. So this was a great scene because, Grant Gustin and Carlos Valdez, they really brought it. That felt like a great scene. But I side with Barry on this one, because they didn't really seem like they were getting, too close at all. They're trying to make it play that, well, he's afraid he's going to lose them the way he lost Ralph, because he wasn't a good teacher for Ralph. But the fact is, they weren't getting in on this. That they weren't grabbing this lesson with both hands and being able to do anything with it. And so it was basically just sending them to their deaths if they were not ready to, try to accomplish what they were trying to do. So I don't think Barry was really wrong in this case. So he takes them, and the plan goes off. Ivan and Snow save the hostages. Barry destroys the satellite, or one of them, I guess. I don't know. Nice villain confrontation between DeVoe and Barry at the end, where we don't really get too many of those villain and hero tete-a-tetes, or whatever they call them, where they sort of have a face-to-face without punching and without. And I thought it was very effective. I thought it was very good. Now, Cisco vibes Caitlin to show her childhood when Frost was first emerging. Now, apparently, this is kind of strange. She had Frost in her, I guess, all the time. It wasn't something that was just made manifest because of the dark matter explosion, the particle accelerator. Meanwhile, Harry and Iris confront Mrs. DeVoe. She still thinks DeVoe is right in some way, but Iris convinces her that, her past was sort of altered by DeVoe influencing her, and that she's sort of gotten off the beaten path. DeVoe goes after Gideon next and uses her to start the Enlightenment, which is an interesting choice. I didn't think that would be something that would be the catalyst for the Enlightenment. So, again, this is a good show. They usually are really good near the end of the season, because they're ramping up and they're getting the action out, and they're, we got the therapist again. The therapist is in there with Caitlin. I have to say, I don't want Caitlin out in the field. I think Caitlin should be in the lab. Cisco should straddle both worlds, because he's good in the lab, but he's also useful in the real world and in the crime fighting world. So he can straddle both worlds. But when it comes to Caitlin, she's fighting against an inner demon, and without that Killer Frost persona, her persona is not really one of gung-ho action. I mean, I'm not saying she's helpless or that she needs to be depicted as helpless, but I don't see her picking up a gun, the freeze gun or whatever. She had some kind of freeze gauntlet on. Is it something like that? I don't see her being the type to just jump into the action as some kind of superhero, because her character really, to me, is rooted in the Tina McGee character of the original Flash, where she was famous for saying, "You work the streets, I work the lab." That's how it's done. So I kind of feel like that's really what we need from, I want to say Tina, no, Caitlin. But the problem is they can't bring Frost in it to be that superhero, because she's evil. So they're either going to ruin the concept of Killer Frost or they're going to ruin the concept of Caitlin. They're not going to be able to do justice by either of them. They should have made Killer Frost a frenemy. They should have made her something that Caitlin struggles against and transforms into against her own will, but sometimes for the greater good. They skirted around that a little bit, but they did it in more of a comical fashion. I don't know, but I'm going to give this episode 4.5 stars out of 5, and I'm looking forward to seeing the season finale coming up tomorrow, as a matter of fact. All right, so now we get into our season finales. Season finale, let's start off with Arrow. Arrow, of course, this was the swan song of Mr. Paul Blackthorne, who played, of course, Quentin Lance during all 6 years of the show. Unfortunately, the rumor, got spread early, like about 2 weeks ago, that he was going to be leaving the show, that they wrote him out. And I don't know, I have mixed feelings about this. I think, honestly, Paul Blackthorne was the MVP of the show. I think you could always rely on him to bring it. You know what I mean? He wasn't a completely humorless character, but he supplied a lot of the pathos on this show. And great actor, really, especially when he has those tearful scenes, either with Katie Cassidy or Stephen Amell. He really brings it, and not only brings it, but he brings out the best in his co-stars. That's the sign of a good actor, too, when you can bring out an even better performance from your co-star, whoever you're acting with. And he's done that, especially for Amell, pretty much all along throughout the show. And to be honest with you, I'm not entirely convinced that we've seen the last of him. Now, I think he's dead in as much as, the Arrow world is concerned. But we've got a show called Legends of Tomorrow. And in this show, Legends of Tomorrow, we've already had Damien Dark come back twice. We've had Eobard Thawne come back. I don't know. There probably is a few more dead characters that have come back. I mean, we've got the Earth 2 Laurel, but that's a different situation. But but the possibilities are endless. We could have Earth 2 Lance or another Earth Quentin. I mean, a lot of possibilities. But what I would like to see happen, honestly, if I were to really just stretch my imagination and say, what would be cool? I would love to see Quentin Lance on Legends of Tomorrow. I would love to see him actually spend that time with Sarah that he never got a chance to spend. They could pull him out of the past for a season, and then maybe he has to go back or something like that. But let's do it. Let's see it. That's what I want to see. That's what I want to see. Okay, let's get to this episode now. This was a pretty good episode, all things considered, even though, like I said, I didn't really want to see Quentin die. So Green Arrow's team and Watson storm the corrupt police department. Diaz is no longer there. Anatoly is still a mole in the Diaz camp, and he's sort of feeding Ollie some information. I was so afraid Anatoly was going to get killed in this episode, I can't tell you. But apparently he'll survive, for next season. And I'm glad to see that he's still surviving. And I'm glad to see they're using him sort of in the way that I wanted to see them use him, as a frenemy. He's got his own interests, but he's aligning with Oliver because he knows that Diaz is bad news, and he can't really convince himself with his own sort of code of integrity that, I guess, I don't know if it's independent to him or if it's the Bratva's code, but he basically can't allow the city to be threatened by Diaz. Give me a second here. That's the longest I've gone without having a little H2O in one of these broadcasts, probably. But Ollie offers Diggle the suit, the Arrow suit, and Diggle declines. He says that, it means something more when it's worn by Oliver, I guess. It's not the suit, really. That's the issue. And we all kind of knew that, but I don't know. Diggle is not wearing the Spartan costume either. I'm kind of disappointed in that. He's just going around now as an agent of Argus. I mean, not to say that his Spartan costume is so truly magnificent, but when you're running around with the Green Arrow, I'd like you to be dressed appropriately. Anatoly meets the team. This is sort of Ollie's. They even had Felicity make a joke about it. This is Ollie's um, farewell tour or something, apology tour, where he's going to each and every member. And well, I'll get back to that in a second. I'll take this episode sequentially. Of course, at this point, Diaz threatens Laurel, her safety with Quentin. The team goes after Diaz. Renee gets stuck like in a bomb trap, sort of worthy of Batman. He calls Zoe, and there's like a touching scene that he's calling Zoe to say goodbye. They escape, but Renee is kind of shell shocked, and it's pretty easy to see that they want to write Renee out. It seems like, so they keep impressing upon us the fact that he doesn't have the stomach for this anymore. He doesn't really want to do this. He wants to be a stay-at-home dad, which seems completely at odds with the character he portrayed last season. I never could have seen him as a stay-at-home dad last season. He just seems like the kind of guy that goes out there with the guns blazing. But apparently they're done with him. There's nothing else they can do with him. And I guess if they're going to write him off, it's more ceremonious than, let's say, Ragman got last season. Remember Ragman? Whatever happened to Ragman? Ragman, keep those bottles quiet. No. He just said, "Oh, my rags ain't working anymore. I'm going to take a siesta until I can figure out how they work." And we never heard from him again. Not that I really cared, because not only was his character, I don't know, kind of off kilter and not really that interesting, but I thought the actor was a little meh. Okay, so Quentin doesn't want to put Laurel at risk, and I don't know, he queers up the whole setup that they have for trying to get Diaz. Then in the second stop of Ollie's apology tour, he makes peace with Dinah, and it really warms my heart because I like Dinah, and I really want to see Black Canary and Green Arrow get together, even though I know in this case it's not going to be as romantic team. But seeing them sort of shake hands and her saying that she admired him and this and that, it really made my heart do good. I mean, I really like that. And hopefully it'll continue on, that, they'll still be on the same team now going forward here. All right, so Quentin admits that he had a pacemaker put in, which kind of retroactively explains away why he didn't succumb to a heart attack after like season 3, when Laurel kept saying we have to keep it secret from him that I'm Black Canary because he's going to have a heart attack and he's got a bad heart. He had a pacemaker put in. Anyhow, Felicity can find Quentin due to the pacemaker, so she finds where Diaz took him. Diaz threatens to shoot Laurel, but Quentin gets in the way and takes the bullet. The Black Canaries both save Quentin. Well, Black Canary and Black Siren. I guess she's not Black Canary, but for all intents and purposes, she might just as well be. It's kind of interesting because they got 2 Black Canaries on their hands now. Like I said, I think they should just keep Black Siren evil. But then again, what are you going to do with her as a regular on the show? It's nice that they afforded Katie Cassidy another role, but it's kind of redundant now. I don't know what they would do with 2 Black Canaries in the show. And again, she kind of, they had Black Canary, the Dinah Drake version. They had her kind of making peace with Black Siren, but you have to remember, she's still a wanton killer. She's killed pretty much remorselessly, and she put down her boyfriend Victor or something, and it's kind of hard to see them working side by side on a team. I think it's in some fashion maybe Laurel should go. Of course, that would be interesting to see her go on Legends of Tomorrow as well. How about that? Okay, so Green Arrow fights Diaz, and he's got him cornered. He's got him against the bridge, and he's got the ocean beneath him. Black Siren blasts him into the river. Oh, oy vey! What are you doing? Oh, that means we're going to have to deal with Diaz again next season. Oh, Black Siren, what is you doing? But yeah, apparently he goes missing, and he's going to be back next season, which, nothing against the actor. I can't remember his name right now. Kirk Avanzio, I believe is his name. He was really good. He plays a great unhinged villain, which is something I always like. I like the unhinged villains. So this is nothing against him. His performance is great, but the thing is that we've dealt with him. It feels like it's longer than it's been. It's only been a half a season, really. But, you know, man alive. What does it take for Oliver to take this guy down? The guy doesn't have any superpowers. The guy isn't particularly adept at laying traps and stuff. He's basically just trying to let the justice system take care of Oliver. He's not the most compelling villain. It's basically just like you got Scarface in the in the Batman world. I mean, in the in the Arrowverse. I don't know, Batman. My mind was trying to think of Gotham, I guess, because that's my next here on my notes. But anyway, let's wrap this one up. So Oliver talks to Quentin before the surgery. We got a nice farewell scene between them two. Sarah comes back and meets Black Siren momentarily. And as much as I love Sarah and Katie Lotz, her appearance was completely superfluous, completely unnecessary. It felt more like an obligation to the actress and to the character more than anything else. She doesn't get there in time to see Quentin before he dies. He dies in surgery, which is another sad thing. The Lance family, the most dangerous place for them to be is in Star General, because none of them have ever made it out alive. I would say to Sarah, get out of town as soon as possible, because you are not going to survive if you ever wind up in there. They've got a terrible turnover ratio. But so we didn't really get this great. I was expecting sparks to fly between Black Siren and Sarah. Doesn't happen. We don't get to see Quentin tell Sarah about Black Siren. She just sort of shows up and it's like, oh, you look like my sister. Are you like her? No, not really. That's all we get. And it's kind of like she should have had this interaction much sooner. And it just felt awkward and very strange right there at that junction. And also, Quentin should have been there to introduce her, really. Otherwise, write a better scene, But again, I'm losing my voice. Let me continue on here before I still got another 2 shows. And man, look at the time. We've already been going on for about 50 minutes. Okay, so at the worst possible time, Watson decides to arrest Oliver for, his part. He said, everybody gets immunity. That's what he said through the whole episode. Everybody gets immunity, so don't worry about it and this and that. So he ends up getting arrested because Watson said he was the only one that was immune from the immunity. Yes. So Oliver owns up to being the Green Arrow on national television. He does the whole I am the Green Arrow, sort of like Iron Man. And I hate when they do this. I hate when they expose the hero's identity. The biggest problem for me is more that it makes not only this season, but the whole series, where he's been trying to keep this a secret desperately. I mean, we had Roy faking his own death. We had the big convoluted at the beginning of the show, basically in the 4th episode, I think it was, where he had to, make it look like he was Green Arrow so he could throw the scent off of him really being the Green Arrow. It's like they went through so many contortions to try to get the world at large off his back, and now he's going to be the Green Arrow in public. Now, if he does that, then why does he need the mask anymore? We're going to have a maskless Green Arrow. It's bad enough he doesn't look enough like the Green Arrow as it is. Now we're going to take the mask away, right? I don't know. I don't know where they're going in season 7. I sure as heck hope they're going to tighten up the ship here, because this was kind of it was a decent season, but it was kind of a disappointment, I think, overall. As I said, the Caden James villain plot of the first half, not that great. Deconstructing Oliver once again, where he's taken all the props are taken away from him again. He has no team. He burns bridges with everyone until the end of the season, where he kind of is, shaking hands with Renee and everybody. And I didn't want to see another Oliver in jail on trial, or his identity exposed plotline again, but apparently that's what we're getting again for season 7. And, I think they're trying to set up the Supermax storyline where I guess, I'm not really familiar with this issue, but it was a story where Oliver was locked in prison with some of his greatest villains and had to, basically endure being the only superhero in a prison full of villains. I think they planned on doing something like this with, was it the third season? I forget where they put Slade and Captain Boomerang on the Lian Yu with the, which by the way, did Captain Boomerang ever make it off of Lian Yu? I don't know. But anyway, I hope Slade Wilson shows up again because he did show up in this season. I hope he shows up again next season to sort of help Ollie out from behind the scenes. It would be interesting to see him, and he knew Anatoly, right? That'd be interesting to see him team up and with Anatoly, maybe to try to get Ollie out of jail. All right, so yeah, this episode I'm going to give it 4.5 stars out of 5. I was going to give it 4, but again, kudos to Paul Blackthorne. Just for service alone, he deserves another half a star. Did a great job all throughout the years as Quentin Lance, and the episode was pretty, it was better than average. It wasn't an average episode. I would say it was a little bit better than some of their other offerings. So, yeah, 4.5 stars out of 5 for Arrow this week. All right, we're going to go now to the season finale of Gotham. I realize now I didn't say my episode of the week. I don't really know who's going to be episode of the week now that I think of it. None of them were really head and shoulders above any other, but I'm probably going to give it to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. just on sentiment alone. But I don't know. All right. So, when we last left Gotham, Selina was rushed to the hospital after being shot point blank. Apparently, they're going to do the Batgirl thing, and she's got an injured spine. She's probably not going to be able to walk until superhero magic will somehow release her from the unfortunate real-world consequences of being shot through the, chest point blank. Jeremiah is put in jail, and he says that there are more bombs, and I don't know. He wants to talk to Bruce Wayne. Meanwhile, Hugo Strange is checking out Butch. Roz blows up the mayor. That's going to be a terrible job. Why would you campaign for being the mayor of Gotham? You know that your life expectancy, you're not going to live out the term. Every mayor of Gotham, I think, has died under, the past 5 years. Or 4 years, I guess it's been 4 years the show's been. Jim tries to beat it out of Jeremiah where the bombs are hidden or whatever. Of course, that never works. In Shades of the Dark Knight. Now, some soldier guy, that's always kind of what happens. The black soldier guy comes in and takes charge. And he wants Bruce to meet with Jeremiah because, the fate of the city's at stake. Jim doesn't want to go along with it. This guy's got no patience, so he arrests Jim right away. The Riddler saves Jim as he's being escorted out the back and captures him, puts him in a death trap, sort of an Adam West-ish death trap. To make a long subplot short, Lee finds out, says she's leaving Gotham, and she wants Jim to live, but she'll only let Ed join her if Jim is released. So Ed thinks better of it and releases Gordon. Jim tells Lee that he wishes he could change their past. She kind of just brushes him off and leaves. I guess she doesn't really find an interest in Ed, to be honest. Meanwhile, Roz finds Babs, and he wants her to join him and flee to his lodge in the hills. Or is it Hill to his lodge in the fleas? Bruce and Alfred are brought to the GCPD. Oh, every time, take a drink anytime, Jim Gordon says, GCPD. I love that every time he says that. I don't think he said it for a while this season, though, but it's funny. I crack myself up when I think of that. All right, so Bruce sees Jerry. Jerry tells Bruce to embrace his true self, tells him about Roz being involved. Jeremiah has the bombs because Roz got them or something, and he escapes and brings Bruce to Roz. Alfred goes to Babs and wants to, mount a mission to rescue them. Oswald wants in. Jeremiah seems to see Bruce as a brother, like a replacement for, Jerome, I guess. I don't know. It's a very strange character they've created with Jerry, or as I call him. The Dark Knight Joker strings, they got their own version of the Joker strings. They got their own version of the Batman theme at the end of this here. When you hear sort of the Nolan Batman theme, which is really cool. I like that they're, paying homage, so to speak, to that. Jim has the bridges cleared, and they turn on the soldier dude that's in charge because he doesn't want to evacuate the city or something. So Babs and their team attacks to battle Roz and Jeremiah. Roz gets stabbed again by Bruce and Barbara. They join hands, whatever, and stabs Roz, and he disintegrates again. And isn't he supposed to survive long enough for Bruce to become Batman? I mean, how many times are they going to kill off Ra's al Ghul and then find some convoluted way of bringing him back? Just write him out of the darn show and stop killing him and bring him back. And that's what I feel about it. All right, so the bomb goes off. We finally get Jim in the traditional Commissioner Gordon coat. All we need now is the hat and the mustache. He's halfway there. He's halfway there. Meanwhile, Lee wants to stay because the Narrows are in trouble again, and all of a sudden she's queen of the Narrows. She officially breaks it off with the Riddler, but he attempts to kill her. She stabs him first, but he stabs her second, so they both stab each other. And this was kind of, I gotta admit, I like this. It's kind of strange, but they stab each other and then they kiss while the knives are basically still, I don't know, the knives are still warm with their blood, so to speak. And the Riddler kisses her, but she doesn't like, she's opposed to it. That's like strange Gotham stuff for you. I don't know. I found it strangely compelling. I found myself a little off-put that I found that so compelling. All right. So meanwhile, Penguin makes good on his promise to cure Butch from being Solomon Grundy. So he takes him to Hugo Strange, and he succeeds. Hugo ends up curing Butch. I don't know what happens to Hugo. I think he just takes a run-out powder or whatever. But anyhow, so as soon as Butch is cured and he's in love with Tabitha, but Penguin shoots him point blank and kills him. Now, this is like something that Butch has already been through. He got shot in the head, last season, right? Yester season. And he came out all right. But I think this is pretty much the end of Butch. So again, another character being rode off into the sunset. Hats off to Butch Gilzean, because he's been in it since the first season and quite honestly never thought he'd make it to the end. But he kept coming back until now this season. It looks like it's a swan song. Keep bringing Babs back too, so who knows? I don't know. But so he kills Butch, Penguin, and he says that, he says to Penguin says to Butch, there's no hard feelings. He's basically doing it to punish Tabitha because, of course, back in the second season, Tabitha killed his mom. And, if you know the Penguin, there's no reason why he would let that go. You know what I mean? He's a arch criminal supervillain here, and he so far has left his mother's killer unpunished back when Tabitha was working for Galavan. So I wasn't surprised that he was finally, I thought at that point in the show when he shows up, Penguin, I thought he was just going to kill Tabitha. But, he's got that kind of con thing, I want to hurt you and keep on hurting you. And then when I feel you've suffered enough, then I'll kill you type thing, which makes sense. I mean, he's basically suffered for the last 3 seasons, not even attempting to kill his mother's killer. Although, I don't know, maybe he attempted once or twice, but, he kind of just gave up on it after, maybe a season. All right, so Selena's taken out in the ambulance, probably paralyzed for all we know, and Alfred wants to stay with Bruce. Bruce says for Alfred to join Selena. And I guess the implication is to protect her in case his enemies go after her again. But the thing she says early on in the episode is, before she passes out or whatever, she says, you won't leave me, will you? And, he says, I'll stay with you. And of course, this is what's going to signal, the big relationship difficulty they're going to have next season, because she's basically finding out she's paralyzed, and Bruce is going to stay in Gotham to try to, be sort of the teenage crusader, I guess, here, and make some moves against Jeremiah next season. So it's a pretty fun ending where all the villains take their own piece of Gotham. I think this was done in No Man's Land, like in the early 2000s or something. I don't know. I never really read that one, but Gotham goes to heck, and all the different villains take their own continent, so to speak, where they can latch onto. So Mr. Freeze gets his part of Gotham. Firefly gets her part. Who else? They show some other characters there that I'm not sure. This freaky looking guy, I guess, is Man-Bat. And then there was this other couple of the woman and her son, I guess, with masks on, which I didn't get that. I don't know who that is. But yeah, so it looks like that's what they're going to do. Babs makes a man-free zone in the city. She kills all the League of Assassins who are pledging their fidelity. So it's going to be an all-woman section of the town. And yeah, it looks like it's going to be an interesting, fifth season now? And there's still some more house cleaning here. Hugo Strange is left with the bodies of Lee and the Riddler. So apparently he's going to save their lives or restore their lives or whatever is going to happen with them. Let's see. Bruce gets back with Jim, and you got Jim in the coat, like I said, is great. And you got them standing side by side with the blank signal, not the bat signal because there's nothing on it yet, but he's got a signal up in the sky. And I think he said something along the lines, you want your enemies to come to you. And that's why he put the signal in the sky, and you get the Batman theme. So, yeah, this was a pretty good season finale. I enjoyed it. Again, we didn't have to, it's the end of the season for a lot of these shows, and they save their best for last. So a lot of these, as I said, are trying to finish up strong. I'll say 4.5 stars out of 5 for this one, too. A pretty good, I think, like I said, the only thing that bugged me is the death of Ra's al Ghul. Again, very anticlimactic, especially when we know he always comes back. But yeah, and they're going to be back for one final season next year. And they're going to try to probably, get everything up to speed because Bruce has not grown up enough to become Batman. So they're going to probably try to, get a lot of that training in next season. All right, and then we're left with our final episode here now. We've gone over an hour. Let us try to wrap this up quick here with the season finale of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Agent Coulson. Is he going to buy the farm, kick the bucket, whatever else you want to say? All right, so the episode starts off really strong with the agents arguing over what to do. What to do? They're on the horns of the dilemma because they can either use the cure to save Coulson or they could use the cure to kill Talbot. They argue, Antique's outside. He's like, doesn't want to be in there with the grown-ups. Yo-Yo steals the cure, and the team wants to cure Coulson. Basically, she's the odd woman out. And, it looks like she's desperate because she knows that in the future, her future self says the only way is to not save Coulson, or to not try to save Coulson. He ends up breaking the vial, which I guess contains the killing compound of it. I'm not sure if I got that too well, but anyhow, Fitz makes it up as the antidote. He mixes it up as an antidote, and they're going to give it to Coulson. Meanwhile, Talbot questions Robin. She doesn't really help, so Talbot locks her mom away, and Robin says, "This is the last time I'm going to see you." And I thought for sure Robin's mom was going to get killed in this one, but that changes history right there as well, because she doesn't. Anyhow, it's interesting. Mac says they have to answer to God for what they've done. And Mac feels very much like the Captain America of the team. He has very strong moral compass. He doesn't really let his emotions dictate what he's doing, but he believes very strongly in what he's doing. Talbot sends the ship into the city, crashing into the city. Yo-Yo visits Coulson and sort of apologizes for the fact that she's like so pro let Coulson die. But Coulson says he would have made the same play if he was there. He would have backed her. Deke says he wants to leave. He tells Sky, Daisy, that he wants to leave. And that's the last we see of him. I don't know. We'll get to that in a second. Anyhow, Gemma, is attempting to cure Coulson, but May sort of stops her and talks to him. And she says it's up to him to take the cure, and she leaves him with the cure. Now, he's in bad shape at this point, Coulson. He's, can barely stand, can barely breathe. Talbot is in Chicago and steals the gravitronium that's from the ground. Daisy abdicates her status as leader to Mac. Phil joins them and tells Daisy to suit up. And let's see. All right, Mac and Fitz and May head to the crash site to find survivors. They save Robin. Meanwhile, Phil didn't take the cure, and he's on board the I want to say like the jump ship, but I don't remember what it's called. And he's failing rapidly. He's like passing out, and the pilot's the only one there with him. So Mac goes to rescue Polly, Robin's mom, and May and Fitz go after him because in the future, Mac and Polly don't make it. So they figure by joining in, they'll be able to save them, and they do. They kill the aliens that are about to kill them. Meanwhile, Quake takes on Gravitron and appeals to his humanity, but she didn't get very far. Gravitron slams Daisy, takes her up in a mile-high choke slam, and smashes her into the ground. Coulson hid the serum in her Quake gauntlets, and she uses the serum on him and blasts him into space where he's flying around frozen. Apparently dead, but I guess you never can tell. I think he probably could survive strange things like that. Fitz gets broken up in an avalanche. An avalanche falls down on him. Meanwhile, Phil is failing fast on the jet, and Yo-Yo revives him, not vibes him. That's Cisco's thing. But she revives him with some CPR, so it was important that she be the one to do that after being so pro-death Coulson. Gemma stabilizes him. Meanwhile, Fitz is impaled with the pieces of the ship that broke off and fell on him. And he does that thing. I can't feel my legs. I think my leg is broken. But everybody else can see that he's basically, stabbed, through like a spearfish. So it's a really sad moment too, because he doesn't really know he's dying. And he's a great actor, that kid, Ian McAllister, I believe is his name. I've always said he's the MVP of the show, and he really, once again, just nailed that heartbreaking performance. And he dies right in front of Mac and May. Now, they kind of left us with a cliffhanger because the team gathers for like a toast. And they toast the passing of someone, and you're led to believe that maybe it was Fitz. But actually, it's Coulson's retirement. He didn't take the cure, and he's got days, possibly weeks, before he gives up the ghost. Meanwhile, they have some offhand comment about Fitz is in the spaceship and they've got to find him. Now, apparently, this kind of is mind-bending to me. You can figure this out slowly, but all right. Fitz went into the future back before the whole team came from the past. So if they go to where he froze himself, they can thaw him out, and it will still be present-day Fitz and not future Fitz, because present-day Fitz still exists, and since the future has changed anyway, you won't need future Fitz. He can die because you still have present-day Fitz. Understand that? Yeah, I guess. But Deke is never mentioned again. I think he blinked out of existence, although nobody seems to know for sure exactly what happens. A very unceremonious departure for him since we don't know what the heck is going on. And so Daisy says goodbye, and that's sort of the heart and soul of the show from the beginning, has basically been them two discovering themselves, if not discovering each other and the relationships that they never really knew they could have had without each other. So anyhow, Coulson is left on the beach. Tahiti, possibly. He says it's magical there, but I don't know if they specified it's Tahiti. But he puts on the sunglasses like the Coulson of old, and he's with May. May is going to remain with him for his last days, apparently. Now, we all know that there is a sixth season in the works. So this will not be the end of Coulson's story. If this was the way they ended it, I kind of probably would have been a little upset because really, I honestly don't know what the appeal is of seeing your heroes die at the end of a show, especially in the case of Agent Coulson, where we've gone moving mountains to try to get him back to life, and the Coulson Lives movement and everything. It's kind of disappointing to say, all right, we did all that. Now he had his episodes. Now, we'll kill him off again. And just what I hope to see in season 6 is that they bring him back for some, he obviously has to get back in touch with the rest of the team. They can't just leave him and May there, stranded. But have Ghost Rider come back. Have Ghost Rider come back, which I was kind of hoping was going to happen this season anyway, but it didn't. And see if he can't restore him, because I think that's really what the cause is here. It was cool to see, okay, well, he's got to pay the devil his due, but Ghost Rider is not a malevolent character. He should be more than willing to restore Coulson's health on the basis of he's needed. He's needed by the team. He's needed by the world, given, his place in SHIELD. So that's what I'm hoping will happen in season 6. So far, I've got an interview with Phil Coulson's Clark Gregg, which I'm going to hold off on that until we do the Torch News Roundup, where he talks about the potential of Phil Coulson being in season 6. But again, we're talking about, we brought him back from the dead in the first place. I'm pretty sure, they can prolong his life. And then that's the thing. He really wasn't dead at the end of this season. He is still alive. So it's not like we're bringing somebody back from the dead as he was after Avengers. All right, so I think I'm going to make this one episode of the week. Again, there's a couple of things I didn't like about it too much, so I'm going to say it's 4.5 stars out of 5. That's 4.5 stars out of 5 for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And we went really long here, so I'm once again not going to get into my MacGyver season finale review. It's not much of a review, but what I'm thinking of doing anyway is after next week, when I think we're going to have pretty much all the season finales next week. I don't know. Do they have Supergirl next week? I don't know. But this week is the end of the Flash, the end of Krypton. I know that. Potentially Supergirl. After we get through with them, I'll do another show where we look back at all the seasons and sort of just briefly run through what we think about them. And I'll probably do the MacGyver one on that show. Okay, so there you are. And Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is going to be our episode of the week. And if you liked anything you've heard here, make sure you tune in for next week's This Week in Comic Book Television. That is usually on Saturday, although, in some cases it's on Monday. So if you don't see it broadcast on Saturday, check us out on Monday. On Wednesday, I'll be trying to get you a Torch News Roundup, hopefully by Wednesday, if not sooner, because, as I said, I didn't know if I was going to try to do the recording now. But either way you look at it, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you leave something in the comments below for me to read, because I always read all my comments on the Torch News Roundup. I've got a comment from a viewer of my Phantom of the Opera review, which is one of my most popular reviews, one of my most popular videos, period. And we're going to read that on the Torch News Roundup. As I said, we've got stories about interview with Clark Gregg. We've got some interesting stuff going on in the world of the Netflix Marvel shows. We're going to talk about Daredevil Season 3 and Iron Fist Season 2. More stuff like that. And, can't wait to have you visit me again. Until next we meet, this is your host, Johnny Torch, reminding you once again, keep that flame burning brightly, and I'll be with you again real soon.